When we think of someone who managed to cultivate a wealth mindset, even in the face of massive losses, it's impossible not to think of Donald Trump's trajectory. People often only look at the bottom line, seeing the billions, the luxurious properties, and the image of success, but forget that his story was also marked by failures, falls, and new beginnings. There were times when Trump was close to bankruptcy, carrying billions of dollars in debt, with newspapers reporting his downfall and critics declaring his career over. Yet, he managed to rise again and rebuild his empire. What made this possible wasn't just inherited wealth or connections, but also his mindset. Trump always harbored the conviction that he was a rich, powerful, and influential man, even when the external environment screamed otherwise. This identity was non-negotiable. While many in his position would have surrendered to defeat, accepting bankruptcy as a final sentence, he chose to maintain the image of someone who was merely passing through a temporary phase. In his mind, ruin wasn't destiny, it was merely an obstacle. This conviction was so strong that it allowed him to renegotiate debts, use his name as a brand, transform his image into a source of income, and rebuild a fortune many believed lost. History shows that his greatest strength lay not in his wealth but in the wealth mindset he maintained. He lost millions, but never lost sight of himself as a millionaire. And because of that, he was able to start over. This is the essential point that connects your journey with what we're studying here. Life returns what you sustain internally. If you have the certainty that you are abundant within yourself, even when external circumstances seem unfavorable, sooner or later, your reflection will confirm this abundance. But if you surrender to scarcity within, believing that defeat is definitive, your reflection solidifies into failure. Of course, each of us has a different story, and it's not about imitating someone in every way, but about understanding the universal principle. The identity you carry is more powerful than any obstacle. Trump is just an extreme example of how self-belief, a mindset of greatness, and a refusal to see yourself as defeated can transform even the greatest failures into platforms for a new beginning. I want you to reflect. How many times have you given up because something went wrong? How many times have you convinced yourself there was no way out because you missed an opportunity or faced financial hardship? This example shows that no loss is permanent, as long as you don't lose your inner vision. What truly keeps someone going is the certainty that it's always possible to start over and prosper again. So say out loud now, I never lose my prosperity identity. This is the key that transforms any setback into a new beginning. It doesn't matter if you're facing debt, unemployment, or limitations today. If you sustain your wealth identity within yourself, life will find ways to make this vision a reality again. Write in the comments, I rebuild myself whenever I need to because my abundance is infinite. This statement reinforces that you are not dependent on the past or circumstances. Prosperity is your nature, and as long as you maintain this certainty, there will always be new opportunities to prosper. Life gives you millions not because you never fell, but because you learn to rise with the knowledge that you are already rich inside. And when this conviction becomes unshakable, the external world has no choice but to align itself with it. Now look carefully at the teachings of this book. Life gives you millions when you hear this. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to naturally attract wealth, while others, despite hard work, can't escape financial hardship? The truth is, the secret isn't chance, luck, or even talent. The secret lies in how the mind is trained to see the world, how it accustoms itself to experiencing abundance, or how it becomes trapped in the chains of scarcity. Life is like a mirror. It doesn't return what you desire in words, it returns what you are in essence. When the mind sees itself as small, surrounded by limitations with a constant fear of lack, the reflection life brings is precisely this: bills difficult to pay, opportunities that never seem to arise, and a constant feeling of fruitless effort. But when the mind assumes the identity of someone prosperous, who recognizes themselves as worthy of wealth, the world begins to reorganize itself around this inner certainty. This is the central lesson. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Your current financial situation is nothing more than a reflection of what you've accepted as true within yourself. Therefore, changing your life requires first changing your mindset. It's not the other way around. It's not about receiving more money and only then feeling rich. It's about feeling rich and then creating the conditions that attract more money. This inversion of cause and effect is what separates the prosperity mindset from the scarcity mindset. Now, before continuing with the teachings, I want you to pause briefly and say to yourself, out loud if possible, I am ready to prosper. Repeat this with conviction, feeling the words. And before moving on, make sure you've already hit the like button, but only do so if you truly want to make room for wealth to manifest in your life. This simple gesture is a symbolic commitment. You are choosing to feed your mind with thoughts of abundance. Moving on, imagine your mind as a radio station. It constantly emits signals, and these signals are picked up by the universe. If the signal you transmit is one of fear, anxiety, and scarcity, life responds by sending you situations that confirm this frequency. But if the signal you transmit is one of trust, gratitude, and prosperity, life responds in kind, bringing you experiences that reinforce this state. It's not magic. It's simply how the mind's focus organizes perceptions, opens your eyes to opportunities, and makes you act in accordance with the identity you carry. This change doesn't happen from the outside in. It's not the new job, the unexpected inheritance, or the lottery win that will transform you into a prosperous person. It's the transformation of your consciousness that opens the space for these situations to become possible. This is the key that thousands of people are unaware of. They spend their lives trying to change external circumstances when the real starting point is within. I want you to consider this. There's a millionaire version of you already living inside your mind. This version knows how to make decisions with confidence, sees opportunities, and remains calm even in challenging times. What's stopping you from living like this version isn't a lack of money, but the invisible walls built by fear, doubt, and the belief that you're unworthy. And every time you choose to see yourself as limited, you reinforce those walls. But when you allow yourself to feel abundance as if it were already real, even if it's not yet visible in your bank statement, those walls begin to crumble. Your body begins to breathe differently. Your posture changes. Your outlook expands. You stop walking through the world asking for permission and start walking with the authority of someone who knows it's natural to live in prosperity. This transformation is subtle at first, but with repetition, it becomes inevitable. And that's what I want you to practice from now on. Live each day as if wealth were already your present reality. I'm not talking about buying things beyond your means, nor about forging appearances. I'm talking about adopting the mindset of someone who already feels worthy and comfortable in a world of abundance. This means making decisions without fear, speaking with confidence, seeing each small resource as a sign that there is so much more available, and above all, rejecting the I can't, it's impossible mentality. Life will give you millions, not because you ask for them, but because you become someone for whom millions come naturally. The external world is only a reflection of the internal world. That is the law, that is the key. Think for a moment about how you've reacted to the topic of money. When someone mentions wealth, do you feel excitement or a twinge of discomfort? When you think of large sums of money, does your mind open to imagine possibilities or close down with a weight of anxiety? These automatic reactions are far more important than most people realize because they reveal the frequency your mind is tuned to. Often, without realizing it, people have been trained from an early age to associate money with difficulty, struggle, and scarcity. They've heard repeated phrases throughout their lives. Money doesn't fall from the sky. You have to suffer to achieve it. This isn't for people like us. These phrases take root and become beliefs that shape the entire way someone views life. And here's the point. These beliefs don't describe reality, they create it. This is why two people, living in the same country, the same city, even the same neighborhood, can have completely different experiences with money. One person seems to attract good opportunities, feel a sense of ease, and grow financially, while the other, even working just as hard or even harder, remains stuck in repetitive situations of lack. The difference isn't external, it's internal. It's a reflection of what each person has chosen to accept as true about themselves. You might even think, but I never decided to believe I'm limited. And that's normal. Most beliefs weren't consciously chosen. They were absorbed in childhood, through interactions with parents, teachers, relatives, and peers. They were incorporated without analysis, because when we're young, our minds accept everything as fact. Thus, we grow up carrying ideas that we may never have questioned, but which continue to dictate the limits of what we consider possible. Now comes the powerful revelation. You can question these beliefs and replace them with new ones. You don't have to forever carry the scarcity mindset you've been given without choice. The simple act of realizing it exists opens the door to replacing it. What was once automatic can be reprogrammed, as long as you decide to take control of how you think and feel about wealth. Take a moment and reflect. What phrases about money did you hear as a child that still resonate in your mind? Maybe you remember hearing that money doesn't grow on trees, or that those born poor die poor. Now, I want you to realize that these phrases aren't universal laws. They're just opinions someone repeated so many times that they seem true. But the truth isn't in them. The truth is in the fact that you can create a new story. Change begins with identity. You don't attract what you desire, but what you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as someone destined to always struggle with difficulties, your actions, thoughts, and emotions will unconsciously confirm this vision. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who already lives in abundance, your mind begins to seek proof to validate this identity. And life responds. It's as if there are two versions of you. One limited, believing it can't, doesn't deserve, isn't capable. And another unlimited, already carrying the consciousness of wealth. Every day you choose which one you'll allow to guide your life. This choice is made in the thoughts you feed, the words you repeat, the emotions you reinforce. I want you to close your eyes now, take a deep breath, and imagine for a moment what it would be like if all the weight of financial worry disappeared. Imagine waking up without anxiety about bills, without fear of the future, just with a feeling of confidence and tranquility. Feel what it would be like to walk down the street with your posture erect, not out of arrogance, but because you know you're secure. This feeling doesn't have to wait for the day your bank account changes. It can be cultivated now, because it's a state of consciousness. And here's the secret. When you practice this inner state of abundance, your mind expands. It begins to see opportunities that previously went unnoticed. It makes more decisive decisions, without fear of making mistakes. It begins to attract people and situations that vibrate at the same frequency of trust. The change begins invisibly, but soon becomes visible in concrete events. Now I want you to write in the comments, "My consciousness creates my reality." This simple act of writing or speaking aloud reinforces the message in your subconscious. It's like imprinting a new instruction in your mind, an instruction that will gradually replace those old beliefs of scarcity. Understand, you already possess within you the same power that built fortunes, transformed lives, and built empires. There's nothing special that someone who prospered received that you didn't. The difference lies only in what each of us chose to accept as our identity. And from the moment you decide to embrace the identity of someone prosperous, life begins to rearrange the pieces around you to reflect this new version. It's not magic, it's consciousness. It's not luck, it's alignment. And it's not the distant future, it's the immediate present. What you feel and believe now is shaping the reality you'll live tomorrow. So choose wisely. Choose abundance. Choose prosperity. Choose to see yourself as someone worthy of receiving millions, because that's the image life will return to you. Have you ever noticed how most people live in the hope that something external will change their reality? They believe it will be a new job, a raise, the lottery, a stroke of luck, or even an influential contact that will finally bring prosperity. However, this way of thinking is precisely what keeps the mind stuck in scarcity. When you place power outside of yourself, you automatically place yourself in the position of the one who waits, the one who demands, the one who depends. And this position never generates true wealth. Life responds to your identity, not your pleas. If you harbor the belief that you must fight for every scrap of bread, even if opportunities arise, your mind will treat them with distrust, fear, or insecurity. This is because it's not the world that confirms your beliefs. It's you who shape the world accordingly. It's as if each person wears invisible glasses that color all reality. Those who see through the lens of scarcity see only limitations. Those who see through the lens of prosperity see paths, solutions, and abundance. The great lesson lies in understanding that it's not about acting rich superficially, but about feeling rich deep down, recognizing yourself as someone worthy and capable of sustaining an abundant life. This inner feeling is key. When you learn to live with the certainty that wealth already exists within you, there's no way to remain trapped in situations of scarcity for long. Stop for a moment and observe your own life. How many times have you missed opportunities because you didn't believe you were ready? How many times have you refused to accept an invitation, a proposal, or a challenge because you thought you weren't up to it? These moments weren't decided by the outside world, but by your self-image. And self-image is something you can change. Instead of asking, "Can I do it?" start asking yourself, How would I act if I already did? This simple shift changes the way your brain works. Your mind starts looking for solutions instead of excuses. Your body responds with more confidence, and even your tone of voice conveys security. And this new energy is noticed by everyone around you, which opens even more doors. I want you to try an exercise now. Imagine yourself living the financial life of your dreams. Visualize in detail where you would live, what your routine would be like, what places you would visit, who the people would be around you. Feel the air in that environment. Hear the sounds, perceive the colors, even imagine the smells. Make this a real scene in your mind. Now, more important than seeing it is feeling it. Feel comfortable in this life, as if it were your normal, not something distant but something natural, already part of who you are. This exercise isn't fantasy, it's consciousness training. Your subconscious can't differentiate between a real experience and one intensely lived in your imagination. This means that the more you place yourself in these abundant scenarios, the more your mind accepts them as natural. And when they become natural, your choices, your attitudes, and even your approach to life begin to change. And the world, being a reflection, responds to this change. Now I want you to say out loud with conviction, I am already prosperous. Even if your current reality doesn't yet demonstrate this, declare this truth to yourself. Because transformation doesn't begin with your bank statement, but with your consciousness. And consciousness shapes everything else. Understand how life is a perfect mirror. When you fear losing money, situations arise that confirm this loss. When you doubt your worthiness, obstacles arise that reinforce this doubt. But when you place yourself in the position of someone who already has, already deserves, already belongs to abundance, the reflection begins to change. Not immediately like a switch, but gradually, like the sunrise illuminating the darkness. This is where many people fail. They begin practicing the prosperity mindset, but when they don't see instant results, they give up and revert to their old beliefs. The secret lies in persistence. Just as a muscle needs repeated training to gain strength, the mind also needs repetition to accustom itself to abundance. Every thought, every affirmation, every visualization is an exercise that strengthens this new identity. So the question you should ask yourself every day is not, when will I get rich? But, who am I choosing to be now? Because life doesn't respond to the distant future, but to the present. It reflects who you are in this very moment. Write in the comments, I choose to be abundant now. This simple phrase is a decision you repeat every moment. And the more you reinforce this choice, the more natural it becomes, until living in prosperity ceases to be an effort and becomes an identity. If we look closely, the vast majority of people spend their lives believing that money is something distant, almost unattainable. They see wealth as a privilege reserved for a few, and without realizing it, they place themselves on the outside like spectators. This view creates a profound blockage, because as long as you believe that wealth is something beyond your reach, your mind will never allow you to experience it fully. What needs to be clear is that wealth is not a destination, but a state of consciousness. It's not about getting there someday in the future, it's about being now. When you feel abundance as part of your identity, the actions and opportunities that create results begin to emerge naturally. But as long as you see yourself as needy, who still needs to earn permission to live well, your mind will sabotage any movement toward prosperity. The bottom line is simple. You don't receive wealth because you work harder than others. You receive wealth because you maintain a mind that vibrates with wealth. Of course, work is part of it, but it's only a reflection of your internal state. Two people can perform the same task, but one will be rewarded differently than the other because their consciousness conveys a completely different message to the world. Think about it. Maybe you've known someone who always seemed to have good luck. Opportunities presented themselves, people wanted to be around them, doors opened easily. This wasn't a coincidence. It was the result of an inner frequency. This person didn't expect abundance. They already felt abundant. And life only confirmed this feeling. Now look at yourself. How many times have you stopped believing in yourself because the results hadn't yet appeared? How many times have you measured your worth by your bank account balance? That's the trap. Believing you need to see first before you can believe. The law of life works in reverse. First you believe, first you feel, first you assume your identity, and then the world responds. Try a simple test. Instead of looking at your current situation and thinking, I don't have enough money, start training your mind to say, I already have abundance. Say this over and over. even if it feels strange at first. The more you repeat it, the more natural it will become. And before long, your mind will begin to act according to this new identity. Small signs will emerge: an idea, an invitation, an unexpected solution. These small confirmations show that your external reflex is adjusting to your new internal state. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine what it's like to walk with the posture of someone financially free. See yourself walking into places with your head held high, with ease, without the pressure of scarcity. Feel what it's like to make choices with confidence, without fear of spending, without fear of loss. This practice is no joke. It's an exercise that teaches your mind to accustom itself to the feeling of prosperity. And when your mind adapts, your body follows suit. You begin to speak differently. Your voice conveys confidence. Your gestures convey calm. People around you notice this, even if unconsciously, and begin to respond to you differently. This creates a ripple effect. The more you embrace the identity of abundance, the more abundance returns to you. The most important thing is not to let your external environment dictate who you are. If your circumstances don't yet reflect the wealth you desire, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means your mind is still strengthening this new frequency. The reflection always comes, but first you need to hold the image in the mirror. Now I want you to say out loud, "I trust the reflection of abundance." This phrase reinforces patience and the certainty that the external result is inevitable when the internal consciousness has already changed. Also, write in the comments, "I am already wealth in motion." This statement helps to cement in your mind that prosperity is not a distant future, but something you already carry within you, and that is in the process of manifesting. Be consistent. It's not about a single positive thought among thousands of negative ones. It's about training your mind every day, repeatedly, until the identity of prosperity becomes second nature. Consistency is what turns desire into reality. Life will give you millions when you learn to see yourself as someone who already lives in millions. Not because millions fell from the sky, but because you finally allowed yourself to vibrate at their frequency. There's a principle many people ignore. Life doesn't respond to what you ask for with words, but to what you sustain with feelings. This means there's no point in saying, "I want to prosper," if deep down you're afraid of not being able to pay your bills. There's no point in repeating, "I am abundant," if deep down you firmly believe that money is difficult, scarce, or dangerous. The conscious mind may try to affirm something, but it's the subconscious mind that determines the reflection life brings. Therefore, true transformation begins in a quiet place, in the way you talk to yourself when no one is listening. What dialogue repeats itself within you when you think about money? Are they phrases of doubt, like, "Will I be able to do it? What if it doesn't work out? It's not for me." Or are they phrases of certainty, like, "Life always supports me. There is wealth everywhere. I deserve to prosper." The quality of this internal dialogue is what determines your financial reality. Think of someone who repeats daily, even without realizing it, "Money is hard to come by. Nothing ever works out for me." These words, charged with emotion, become commands to the subconscious. And since the subconscious doesn't question, just executes, it transforms this pattern into concrete experience. This person will attract situations that confirm exactly what they believe. Now imagine the opposite. Say a person who, faced with any challenge, repeats to themselves, "I always find solutions. Life takes care of me. I deserve abundance." These statements, when repeated with feeling, create new connections in the mind, new automatic responses to challenges. And little by little, external reality begins to align with this internal pattern. Therefore, one of the most important exercises you can adopt starting today is to monitor your internal dialogue. Don't allow thoughts of scarcity to circulate freely in your mind. Every time you notice one, replace it with an affirmation of prosperity. It doesn't matter if it seems artificial at first. The subconscious learns through repetition. And what is repeated with emotional intensity sooner or later becomes second nature. I want you to try something right now. Close your eyes and repeat mentally with conviction, "Everything I touch prospers. I am guided to the best opportunities. Life responds to me with abundance." Repeat several times, feeling the words. Notice how your body begins to react, as if a lightness were taking over you. This simple exercise, if practiced daily, begins to reprogram your mind toward prosperity. And remember, it's not just about repeating phrases mechanically. You have to feel them. It's the feeling that gives power to words. When you say, "I am prosperous," with emotion, your subconscious accepts it as an order. When you say it without belief, as if it were a lie. Nothing changes. Therefore, the practice involves not just repeating, but mentally experiencing the feeling of prosperity. Write in the comments now, "I choose my inner dialogue." This phrase is powerful because it puts you in control. It's not your environment, your family, or your past that determines your relationship with money. It's the dialogue you maintain in your mind at every moment. Many people live waiting for external change to change their mindset. They tell themselves, "When I have more money, I'll feel rich. When I achieve stability, I'll feel secure. When I achieve this goal, I'll believe I deserve it." But this is a trap. The correct order is always the reverse. First feel, then see. First embrace your identity, then reap the rewards. This is precisely where the power of imagination comes in. Every invention, every business, every fortune began in the mind of someone who dared to imagine something different from their current reality. This means that your imagination is not a space for escape, but a true laboratory of creation. And when you use it with intention, it becomes the most powerful tool there is for attracting wealth. So, dedicate a few minutes every day to imagining yourself living like someone prosperous, not anxiously, but naturally. See yourself making decisions without fear, paying your bills with ease, traveling, living in comfort. Make your imagination a sensory experience. See, hear, feel, touch. The more real it feels, the more your subconscious will accept this identity. And don't forget, life always responds to who you are, not just what you desire. By sustaining an internal dialogue of wealth, you are literally redesigning your destiny. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they need to prove their worth before feeling worthy of wealth. It's common to hear phrases like, "When I achieve this goal, then I'll feel worthy," or "When I have more money, then I'll be able to relax and trust." This way of thinking creates an endless cycle, because life isn't waiting for you to prove anything. It's simply reflecting what you believe yourself to be. When you condition your sense of worth on what hasn't yet happened, you constantly live in scarcity. You send the universe the message that you don't have it yet, that you aren't yet, that you still need to fight to deserve it. And since life always responds to what you are, it confirms this limitation. The secret is to reverse this logic. Feel worthy before achievement. Believe yourself rich before money. Accept yourself as prosperous before external proof. This doesn't mean living in illusion or denying reality. It means recognizing that your consciousness is the cause and that external reality is merely the effect. You are not defined by circumstances. Circumstances shape your identity. Think of someone who carries within them the certainty that they're worth a lot. This person presents themselves differently. Their tone of voice is confident, their posture exudes confidence, their decisions demonstrate clarity. Naturally, opportunities begin to arise because the world responds to the security they radiate. Now think of someone who has little faith in themselves. Their energy conveys insecurity, and even if opportunities arise, they end up wasting them because they can't act confident. It's a reflection of consciousness in action. Life doesn't reward you for what you do, but for the state of consciousness with which you do it. Two people can perform the same activity, but the one who acts with confidence, clarity, and a sense of worthiness attracts far greater results than the one who acts with fear, doubt, and insecurity. Therefore, true transformation happens when you decide to elevate your sense of worth. When you begin to see yourself as someone who deserves to live well, who deserves abundance, who deserves great opportunities. Not because someone said so, not because you've achieved something, but because you exist. Value is inherent. It doesn't need to be earned. I want you to do an exercise right now. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and mentally repeat, "I am valuable. I deserve wealth. Life recognizes me as abundance." Repeat this a few times and notice how your body responds. Perhaps a feeling of lightness, perhaps a confidence that begins to form, even if only a small one. This practice is the beginning of reprogramming your subconscious. When you change your sense of worth, your energy changes, and when your energy changes, people respond differently. You start to be treated with more respect. Opportunities come to you unexpectedly. Doors open that previously seemed closed. Not because the world changed by accident, but because your consciousness finally sent a new message to the universe. Now, I want you to write in the comments, "I recognize my worth now." This phrase is not just text on the screen. It is a declaration to your subconscious that you are no longer waiting for external proof to feel your inner wealth. Understand, you may be living in any situation right now, but the identity of prosperity already exists within you, and what you choose now is to let it emerge. As this identity strengthens, the external reflection adjusts. It may come as a new idea, an unexpected encounter, or an opportunity that previously seemed invisible. Life finds ways to respond to this new state of consciousness. This is precisely what separates those who seem to live in constant struggle from those who naturally flow toward prosperity. It's not the amount of effort, but the quality of consciousness. How you feel about yourself creates the ground where all opportunities flourish. Life gives you millions when you decide you already deserve it, without asking for proof, without depending on tomorrow, without conditioning the future. This is the turning point, not waiting for wealth to feel prosperous, but feeling prosperous so that wealth manifests itself. One of the most powerful keys to understanding prosperity is realizing that the external world functions as an exact mirror of your internal consciousness. Everything you experience, from relationships to financial situations, is a response to what you've been carrying within. This means that if you want to change your life, the starting point is never your environment but your state of mind. Most people believe they need to change their circumstances first to change their feelings. They say, "When I have money, I'll feel secure," or "When I achieve stability, I'll finally relax." But the law of life is the opposite. First you feel secure, first you achieve inner stability, and only then does the world rearrange the pieces to confirm this state. That's why so many people get stuck in cycles of striving. They work hard, believing they need to achieve something out there to feel prosperous later, and since they never do, they keep striving for more, never breaking the cycle. It's like chasing your own shadow. No matter how hard you try, it will never be reached because the order is reversed. Think of your mind as an antenna. It constantly emits signals that life interprets as instructions. When your thoughts and emotions vibrate with fear, anxiety, or scarcity, what reaches you are situations that confirm those emotions. But when your mind vibrates with trust, gratitude, and prosperity, life responds in kind. Now pause and observe. What has been your predominant frequency? When you think about money, do you feel light or heavy? When you think about the future, do you feel excitement or worry? Your answers to these questions reveal much more about your prosperity than any bank account, because the account is only the reflection and the frequency is the cause. I want to propose a simple exercise. Close your eyes for a few moments and imagine that your life is like a radio station. If you tune into the frequency of scarcity, you'll only hear messages of limitation. It's not possible. It's difficult. It's not for you. But if you change the channel to the frequency of abundance, you'll begin to hear messages like, "There's always more than enough. Life takes care of me. I deserve to thrive." The secret is that you choose the channel you'll stay on. Therefore, train yourself to observe what you feel when you think about wealth. If negative thoughts arise, immediately replace them with declarations of prosperity. At first, it may seem artificial, but remember, your subconscious learns through repetition. The more often you hear your own inner voice declaring abundance, the more natural it will become to live in that state. Now write in the comments, "My frequency is abundance." This simple gesture reinforces in your mind the choice to tune into the correct station, the station where everything flows more easily. Another powerful practice is gratitude. Not superficial gratitude, but gratitude that recognizes that there is already abundance in your life. The more you appreciate what you already have, the more your consciousness becomes accustomed to the idea of prosperity. And when your mind accepts prosperity as normal, it begins to attract even more of it. Be consistent. Changing your frequency doesn't happen overnight, just as no one becomes a music expert just by listening to one song. It's daily practice that trains your mind to stay tuned to the wealth station, and the more time you spend on this frequency, the faster life adjusts its reflexes. Understand, life gives you millions not because you beg, but because you become someone who already vibrates like a millionaire. And when this identity takes hold within you, the world has no choice but to reflect what you already are. There's a fundamental difference between those who live in scarcity and those who live in abundance. How each person interprets reality. Two people may be faced with the same situation, but one sees limitations and the other sees opportunities. What changes isn't the circumstance but the state of consciousness. Imagine someone looking at an unexpected bill. If their mind is conditioned to scarcity, the reaction will be immediate: fear, worry, a feeling of suffocation. This energy creates more similar situations because the mind begins to unconsciously seek proof that the difficulty is real. Now imagine someone else facing the same bill, but with a sense of prosperity. Their first reaction is not fear, but trust. They think, this too will work out. Life always finds ways. And because they believe, their body remains calm, their mind open, and precisely from this calm emerge the ideas and solutions that allow them to solve the problem. This is the power of assuming a new identity. It's not just about thinking differently, but about feeling differently. Feeling is the true language with which you speak to life. Therefore, if you want to transform your financial reality, you need to begin cultivating within yourself a sense of security, confidence, and abundance, even when the external scenario doesn't yet reflect this. This is where many give up. They wait to see before they believe. But the law is clear. First you believe, first you feel, and only then you see. Life is a reflection, not the other way around. I want you to try something right now. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in a situation that would normally bring you concern, like opening a large bill. Now, instead of feeling fear, imagine yourself smiling, confident, saying to yourself, I am bigger than any bill. Life always gives me what I need, and more. Feel the tranquility of this statement. This practice, repeated, begins to reprogram your automatic responses. Understand, it's not the account that decides your state, it's you. The same goes for any challenge. The external world only reveals what already exists within you. If there's fear within, you'll see reasons to fear. If there's confidence within, you'll see solutions. Write in the comments now, I am greater than any challenge. By writing this, you reinforce in your mind the identity of someone who has already won, who is already in control, who already lives in abundance. Another important point is to recognize that life doesn't bring situations to punish you, but to reveal your beliefs. If you're facing financial difficulties today, this isn't a punishment. It's simply a reflection of the frequency your mind has been sustaining. And this is good news, because it means that by changing your frequency, the reflection will inevitably change. But be careful. Transformation doesn't happen by repeating phrases without feeling. The real turning point happens when you allow yourself to live internally as if abundance were already real. It's this state of conviction that shapes reality. Train yourself to imagine in detail what it's like to live without fear of your financial future. Imagine yourself waking up peacefully, making confident decisions, buying without guilt, investing without hesitation, not as a distant dream, but as if it were part of your normal day. The more natural this becomes in your mind, the more inevitable it will be in the external world. Life will give you millions when you stop waiting and start embracing the identity of someone you already have. The reflection always comes, but it depends on the image you hold in the mirror of your consciousness. If there's one thing that keeps most people stuck in scarcity, it's the habit of looking to the past and using past experiences as justification for the present. How many times have you heard or even said phrases like, "Nobody in my family prospered. I've never had any luck with money. Everything has always been difficult for me." These statements create an invisible prison. It's as if the person is trying to drive while only looking in the rearview mirror. But what happened before doesn't have to determine what will happen now. The past was merely a reflection of an old consciousness. If you weren't clear about abundance back then, it's natural that you experienced difficult situations. But today, with the understanding that your mind is the true cause, you can begin to create a completely different future. The key is to let go of the weight of old stories. Every time you relive a memory of scarcity and reinforce it with emotion, you're asking the universe to repeat it. But every time you decide not to give power to the past and hold within yourself a new image, you plant a new seed that will inevitably bear fruit. Think about it. Every time you said, "I'm unlucky with money," your subconscious mind recorded that instruction. And since it doesn't distinguish between truth and falsehood, it simply obeys. It began to organize your decisions, emotions, and perceptions to confirm that belief. It wasn't bad luck, it was programming. And just as you were programmed for scarcity, you can reprogram yourself for abundance. I want you to repeat now, out loud, firmly, "My past does not define my future. I choose prosperity." This simple phrase is a new command to your subconscious. It's like changing the address where life sends its results. Now, imagine for a moment a scene from your ideal future. Visualize yourself living in a comfortable home, paying for everything easily, traveling, helping people, having freedom of choice. Feel this scenario not as a distant dream, but as a memory in advance. This is exactly what the mind needs. New images to replace the old ones. Write in the comments, "I release my past and embrace abundance." This gesture symbolizes that you will no longer carry old justifications. You are choosing a new path, independent of what you have experienced. It's important to understand that all change begins within. Many people think, when my life changes, I'll believe it. But life only changes when you first believe it. Therefore, the most powerful exercise there is to begin feeling what you want to experience now. When you feel as if it's already real, your mind aligns, your body responds, and your actions begin to reflect this new identity. There's nothing that can limit a mind determined to live abundantly. Circumstances change, people around us change, opportunities change, but consciousness is the center of everything. When it expands, the world has no choice but to follow. Life will give you millions when you stop looking in the rearview mirror and start driving with your eyes on the horizon. Your destiny is not a reflection of what has already happened, but of what you choose to believe now. A key point few understand is that there is no neutrality in the mind. You're either thinking about abundance or scarcity. There's no middle ground. Every thought, every feeling, every word you say is shaping a direction. Many people believe that only when they're focused on money are they influencing their prosperity. But the truth is that every emotion they carry in their daily lives is shaping their state of consciousness, and consequently, their financial reality. For example, if you constantly worry, even if it's not directly about money, you're training your mind to vibrate worry, and life responds by bringing more situations to fuel that vibration. If you constantly complain, you're fueling scarcity, even if the complaint isn't about finances. On the other hand, if you cultivate gratitude, trust, and serenity, you're training your mind for abundance, and life responds in kind. This is a transformative point. You don't attract what you desire occasionally, but what you vibrate with constantly. Your external life is a faithful reflection of your dominant vibration. It doesn't matter if you repeat prosperity affirmations for 5 minutes in the morning or spend the rest of the day feeling worried, anxious, or limited. What matters is your predominant state, the average of your emotions. Therefore, the practice of shifting consciousness cannot be an isolated act. It's a constant choice. It's learning to observe yourself throughout the day and immediately replace any thoughts of scarcity with a declaration of abundance, not as if it were a mechanical obligation, but as if it were a natural habit, like breathing. I want you to try something practical right now. Think of an area of your life where you feel limited. It could be money, it could be work, it could be something simple. Now, instead of reinforcing the feeling of lack, close your eyes and say in a firm voice, "I choose abundance." Even here, feel this phrase. Imagine the landscape transforming. See new possibilities emerging. This simple choice is like changing the channel on a radio station. You shift from the frequency of scarcity to that of prosperity. Write in the comments, "I choose abundance in all areas." This gesture reinforces that your decision is not partial, but total. It's not just about money, but about adopting a state of consciousness that reflects on everything. It's also important to understand that abundance doesn't come by chance. It always arrives as a response. If you're not experiencing the wealth you desire today, it's not because life has forgotten you or because you don't deserve it. It's simply because your dominant frequency doesn't yet match what you desire. And the good news is that you can change that now without relying on anyone. Every time you catch yourself thinking, "I can't," replace it with, "I can." Every time the fear of not having enough arises, replace it with, "There's always more than enough for me." Every time you feel unworthy, declare, "I am worthy of abundance." At first, it may seem like an effort, but with practice, this becomes your new inner language. And here's the most powerful detail. When this language becomes second nature, you no longer need to strive to attract wealth. It comes as an inevitable consequence, because life cannot resist a mind constantly vibrating with abundance. Life gives you millions when you decide to monitor your frequency and remain steadfast in the season of prosperity. No matter how many times you need to readjust, the important thing is not to give up. Each adjustment is a step toward the identity of someone who already lives in wealth. Many people believe that prosperity depends on external factors, such as luck, connections, or even inheritance. But the truth is that it all starts within, in how you choose to see yourself. It's impossible to live in wealth while your mind insists on carrying the identity of someone limited. It's like trying to fill an upside-down glass. No matter how much water you pour, it won't stay there. Prosperity consciousness works the same way. If you harbor the belief that you don't deserve it, that it will never work out, that everything is difficult, any opportunity that presents itself will be wasted or sabotaged. But when you decide to embrace the identity of someone who is already prosperous, the world has no choice but to respond. This is the point Emmett Fox emphasized. You don't attract what you want, but what you are. There's no point in saying I want wealth while feeling poor inside. You have to feel wealth before you see it. That's the law. Note something. All great inventions, achievements, and fortunes began invisibly. Before a building existed, it already existed in the mind of the architect. Before a car existed, it already existed in the mind of the inventor. Before a fortune existed, it already existed in the minds of those who believed in it. This proves that external reality is only the final step in the process, not the beginning. I want you to think about yourself right now. What image have you been holding in your mind? Do you see yourself as someone destined to always struggle, or as someone for whom prosperity comes naturally? This vision is crucial because it dictates every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every reaction you give to the world. Do this exercise. Close your eyes and imagine yourself as someone who already has complete financial freedom. See yourself walking the streets slowly, without fear, with confidence. See yourself choosing what you want, not based on price, but on desire. See yourself helping others, traveling, creating experiences you desire. Now, more important than the image, feel it. Feel the tranquility, the joy, the confidence. This feeling is the true engine of prosperity. Write in the comments, I already live abundance within myself. This phrase seals the idea that change is not future, but present. What you experience now in your mind is what will determine the reflection of your life. An important detail, your imagination is not a game or an escape from reality. It is the sacred space where your life is created. Everything that exists around you today began one day as someone's thought. So, treat your imagination with respect. Use it not to reinforce fears and worries, but to create the life you desire. Also remember that persistence is key. Often you may practice visualizations and affirmations and then look outside and see no immediate change. This is normal. It takes a while for your reflection to adjust to the new image. But if you give up at this point, you'll be returning to your old frequency. If you keep at it, you'll inevitably see results. Life gives you millions when you firmly hold the vision of yourself as a millionaire, not in the future, but now. The more natural this state becomes, the faster life will reflect it. If you observe closely, you'll see that many people live as if life were a constant battlefield. They believe they must fight, compete, and fight for every opportunity. This mindset creates tension, stress, and a worldview based on lack. And as we already know, what you hold as belief becomes experience. Those who believe that everything is a struggle will always live in struggle. But there's another way to live, the flow mentality. When you understand that abundance is limitless, you realize there's no need for competition. What exists for you will never be taken away by someone else, just as what exists for others cannot be taken away by you. Each person creates their own reflection. This understanding liberates because it eliminates envy, comparison, and the feeling that others' success diminishes your own. In fact, when you celebrate someone's prosperity, you're training your mind to accept abundance as natural. But when you feel envy, jealousy, or anger, you're reinforcing the belief that there's scarcity, and life responds by bringing more scarcity. So I want you to start practicing a simple exercise. Every time you see someone prospering, say to yourself, if this is possible for them, it's possible for me too. This statement eliminates the barrier of envy and transforms the energy of comparison into the energy of inspiration. You begin to align with the frequency of abundance instead of rejecting it. Many spend their lives repeating, "This isn't for people like me." This phrase is a silent poison because it closes the doors of the mind. But when you decide to open yourself to possibility, you begin to see paths that were previously invisible. Life doesn't respond to what you reject, but to what you accept as possible. Now I want you to say out loud, abundance is limitless and I am part of it. Feel that phrase. Imagine yourself as part of an infinite ocean of wealth, where there is no lack, only constant expansion. This is the state of consciousness that needs to be cultivated daily. Write in the comments, I celebrate prosperity and attract abundance. This statement reinforces that you not only desire prosperity, but accept it as natural, celebrating it whenever you see it, whether in your life or in the lives of others. Another essential point is understanding that excessive effort isn't necessary to thrive. What consumes energy isn't the work itself, but the internal resistance created by scarcity. Working with fear, anxiety, and doubt drains your strength, but working with confidence, clarity, and a sense of purpose multiplies your energy. You become more creative, more productive, and better able to see opportunities that others miss. Therefore, the abundance mindset isn't just about feeling good, it changes your practical approach. A calm mind sees solutions. A desperate mind only sees problems. The difference isn't in the world, but in the inner state of the person looking at it. Life gives you millions when you abandon the idea of competition and begin to live in the flow. When you understand that you don't need to compete with anyone because abundance is limitless, you finally free yourself from the fear of lack. And this freedom opens space for wealth to manifest naturally. Every time you allow yourself to believe that prosperity is something distant, you reinforce the distance between you and it. This is the point that needs to be deeply understood. Wealth is not something that happens only to a select few, but a reality that manifests for those who choose to align with it internally. What separates those who prosper from those who live in scarcity is not the amount of physical effort, but the quality of their consciousness. Many people work from dawn to dusk and still fail to break through their financial limits. Meanwhile, there are those who, despite setbacks, losses, and apparent failures, manage to rebuild themselves and multiply their wealth. This happens because true power lies not in the work itself, but in how the mind interprets work, opportunities, and even difficulties. Those who live with an abundance mindset see possibilities everywhere and even find creative solutions within problems. Those who live with a scarcity mindset limit themselves to seeing barriers, reinforcing the idea that the world is difficult and unfair. Life responds precisely to your inner self. If you see yourself as limited, it will confirm that. If you see yourself as prosperous, life will also confirm that. This reflection is inevitable. That's why there are so many comeback stories. People who lost everything and yet managed to build fortunes again. They didn't cling to their circumstances. They clung to the identity of abundance. I want you to realize something important. Wealth is never in what you own, but in what you believe yourself to be. Money may come and go, but your inner identity remains. It's what sustains everything. If you have the conviction within you that you can always rebuild yourself, nothing that happens outside will be permanent. This is the greatest security anyone can have. Now, do a simple exercise. Close your eyes and imagine yourself facing a loss, perhaps financial, perhaps a major obstacle. Then, imagine yourself standing up, taking a deep breath, and firmly saying, "Nothing can bring me down, because my mind is already abundant." See yourself taking new actions, creating new paths, finding new solutions. Notice how this vision builds confidence. This is training your mind to never give up. Write in the comments, "My identity is prosperity, no matter what." Or, by writing this, you seal the commitment to not let circumstances define who you are. You are the one who defines your circumstances. Life gives you millions when you learn to hold on to this conviction, even in the midst of storms. When you stop waiting for perfect conditions and decide now to adopt the posture of someone prosperous, abundance begins to move your way. It's not a matter of hoping for luck, nor of believing in external miracles. It's a matter of training your mind every day to remain in a state of abundance until it becomes natural. And when it becomes natural, nothing can stop its reflection from appearing in the physical world. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine what your life would be like if starting today you began to naturally attract wealth. I'm not talking about a distant dream, but a new reality that begins within your mind right now. The first thing you need to understand is that wealth isn't something you chase, it's something you attract. And you only attract what already exists within you as an identity. If your mind is filled with thoughts of fear, lack, and limitations, you create a frequency that repels opportunities. It's as if you're placing an invisible sign around you, telling life, "Don't send me abundance, I'm not prepared to receive it." But when you train your mind to feel, imagine, and believe in abundance as something natural, you send a completely different signal. It's like opening a direct channel between you and wealth, allowing it to flow to you inevitably. It's important for you to understand that it's not about magic or luck, but about consciousness. Everything in your life today is a reflection of the state of consciousness you've maintained over the past few years. If there were difficulties, they didn't arise by chance, but as a reflection of how you saw and felt yourself. If there were achievements, they were also a reflection of that same mindset. And if you want to attract much more, you need to reprogram what you think, feel, and believe about yourself and money. The first step is to change your internal language. Stop repeating phrases that reinforce scarcity, such as "money is hard to come by," "I can't get out of debt," "I never have enough left over." These statements are like orders sent to your subconscious, and it simply obeys without question. If you tell yourself there's never enough, your mind creates behaviors and attracts situations that confirm this. But when you change this language to phrases like "money flows easily into my life," "I deserve abundance," "prosperity always finds me," your subconscious begins to work in your favor, creating new possibilities and opening doors that were previously closed. Repeat out loud firmly, "I am wealth in motion." Say it again, but this time deeply meaning each word. Imagine that by saying this, you are sending a powerful signal to the universe, declaring your new identity. From now on, you are no longer someone seeking wealth. You are someone already living in wealth. Another essential step is visualization. Your mind doesn't differentiate between what you intensely imagine and what you actually experience. If you allow yourself to imagine yourself every day as wealthy, financially free, making choices with peace of mind, helping others, traveling, and living comfortably, your mind begins to accept this image as reality. And when it does, your actions change, your energy shifts, and the external world begins to reorganize itself to confirm what you already believe. Close your eyes now and imagine waking up to a peaceful morning, knowing there are no overdue bills, everything is in order and abundance abounds. See yourself having breakfast in peace, unhurried and worry-free. Imagine the smile on your face, the lightness in your heart. Feel what it's like to live this way. The more you practice this exercise, the more natural it will become for your mind to live in prosperity, and the faster this reality will become external. Another crucial point is gratitude. Many people constantly complain about what they lack, and this reinforces scarcity. But when you learn to sincerely thank what you already have, your mind opens to more. Gratitude is like a password that unlocks new levels of abundance. Each time you say thank you with genuine emotion, you are telling life that you recognize the richness that already exists, and life responds by bringing you even more. Say now, with conviction, "Thank you for the abundance that already exists in my life. Thank you that there is always more coming." Feel the power of this phrase. It's not just a repetition, it's a declaration of faith, a vibration of trust that opens the doors to new opportunities. It's also important to change your attitude when faced with challenges. Often, when an unexpected bill or financial difficulty arises, people become desperate, fueling fear and scarcity. But this is the time to train your mind. Instead of despairing, take a deep breath and tell yourself, "I am greater than any challenge. Life always gives me the resources I need." This attitude allows your body to relax, your mind to remain clear, and precisely from this calmness emerges solutions you previously couldn't see. Understand how everything is connected: language, imagination, gratitude, and attitude. These elements form your frequency, and your frequency is what attracts or repels wealth. Life never makes mistakes. It always returns what you transmit. If you want to attract millions, you must first feel like a millionaire inside. Once this identity is ingrained within you, the millions will inevitably follow. Now make a final, powerful declaration. Place your hand on your heart and say out loud, "I attract wealth every day, in every way. I am prosperity. I am abundance. I am living proof that life gives me millions." Repeat until you feel each word sink into your mind and become a reality. Write in the comments, "I am prosperity in action." This gesture is more than symbolic. It's a way to publicly record your decision to live in abundance from today onward. Remember, you're not just hearing words, you're sowing new ideas in the soil of your mind, and like any seed, they will grow. The more you water these ideas with practice, repetition, and emotion, the faster you'll see the fruits of your labor. Life gives you millions not when you desperately chase them, but when you decide to embrace the identity of someone who already lives in millions. From that moment on, everything around you will begin to move toward you. You may have heard many times that it's impossible to get rich, that only a few can achieve it, that the world is unfair and that you should conform. These external voices echo so much that they end up becoming internal voices. This is how many live, believing that wealth is a privilege, that it wasn't meant for them, that it's something too distant, but the truth is different. Wealth is possible, accessible, and available to those who learn to cultivate a mindset of persistence within themselves. There's one thing that separates those who achieve abundance from those who fall by the wayside: the ability to keep going, even when things seem meaningless. Those who achieve wealth aren't those who never made mistakes or who never fell, but those who refuse to give up. Everyone who reached the top faced failures, losses, criticism, and moments of darkness, but they still chose to keep going. Think about how many people enthusiastically start a project, a habit, or a life change, but give up at the first hurdle. They look at the obstacles and say, "It's not for me, it's too hard. I don't think I'm cut out for this." This act of giving up kills any possibility of prosperity, because life always tests your resolve before delivering the big results. Wealth doesn't manifest itself to those who throw in the towel at the first headwind. It manifests itself to those who, even tired, even under pressure, even unable to see all the paths, continue to affirm internally, "I won't stop. I'll go all the way." This attitude creates a powerful energy that life recognizes and rewards. Understand, giving up is easy, persistence is rare. And that's precisely why only those who persist achieve abundance. When you keep going, even without seeing immediate results, you're showing the universe that you truly believe, that you truly desire, that you truly identify with wealth. Life doesn't hand out treasures to those who give up easily, because giving up is proof that the identity of prosperity hasn't yet been embraced. Now I want you to repeat mentally, "I am one of those who never give up. I keep going until I conquer." Feel these words sink deep into your mind. This is the mark of those who prosper. They may be slow, they may even fall, but they never abandon the path. It's important to remember that the greats in history, those who built fortunes, also faced major setbacks. There were million-dollar losses, bankruptcies, betrayals, criticism. But in all these cases, one detail made the difference. They bounced back. They didn't allow the defeat to be permanent. Each setback became just a stepping stone to the next level. This is the true mindset of the rich. It's not the absence of failures, but the ability to transform them into fuel to go even further. Now imagine yourself living this mindset. Imagine yourself facing financial hardship. Instead of giving up, you take a deep breath and think, "This is temporary. It will pass. I'll keep going." Imagine yourself facing criticism. Instead of retreating, you think, "They don't know what I know. I'll keep going." Imagine yourself facing a feeling of slowness. Instead of complaining, you affirm, "Every step counts. I'll keep going." This is the attitude that attracts wealth because it demonstrates inner strength. Write in the comments, "I don't give up on my prosperity." This simple gesture seals your decision to stay on the path of abundance no matter how many obstacles appear. Life always rewards the persistent. Maybe not in the time you imagine, maybe not in the way you expect, but it always rewards. Those who insist on keeping their mind focused on abundance, even when circumstances dictate otherwise, will inevitably see doors open. Because life is a reflection, and when that reflection finds someone who doesn't back down, sooner or later, it must align. I want you to remember this. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not inheritance that defines the rich. It's persistence. Many who started with nothing reached the top simply because they decided never to give up. And many who had advantages lost everything because they surrendered to the weakness of giving up. The difference lies in attitude. If you feel like giving up today, I want you to understand that this is the most dangerous and, at the same time, the most decisive moment. It's always when everything seems difficult that life tests your faith. If you give up now, the door closes. If you keep going, even without seeing how, the door opens. This is the invisible secret of prosperity. Now take a deep breath, close your eyes, and declare out loud, "I am persistence. I walk to the end. Wealth is my destiny." Repeat this several times until you feel each word sink into your soul. This declaration is not just a phrase, it is living energy that begins to shape your reality. Life gives you millions, but only to those who don't give up. Only to those who, even when they fall, get back up. Only to those who, even when tired, keep going. Only to those who understand that every obstacle is temporary but abundance is eternal. So don't stop, don't give up, keep going. The wealth is already yours, but only those who follow through to the end can experience it fully.